the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everybody. Hope you're having a good night. I'd like to remind everybody to please silence your phones. I have one quick personal announcement. Whoever keeps ordering the snow, please cancel that order. Ready for spring? I'm sure Bruce and his crew are ready for spring as well.
I'm sure that was rough.
First order of business, public announcements. Details may be found at www.fairfieldme.com. Nomination papers for MSAD number 49 school board members are now available at the clerk's office and are due no later than April 11th at 4:30 p.m. There are 2 seats available for a 3-year term. Please contact the town clerk for details. The Economic and Community Development Committee is hosting a public input session at the Community Center on April 15th, 2025 at 6 p.m. so that the residents and business owners can provide input on the downtown plan. Public input survey is also available online via the town's website or QR codes found around town. On April 23rd, 2025, there will be a public hearing at the Fairfield Community Center to hear public comments on the annual town budget meeting warrant. Annual town budget meeting will be held at the Community Center on Monday, May 12th, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. The annual spring cleanup is scheduled from Monday, May 12th to Friday, May 16th. Brochures are available at the town office. Fourth quarter property taxes are due May 7th, 2025. Non-emergency services will be closed Monday, April 21st in observance of Patriots' Day. Lawrence Public Library. The library is partnering with KV Connect for an Earth Day planting party and cleanup. Join us on Tuesday, April 22nd at 4 o'clock. More details can be found on our website and Facebook page. Free tech help from the National Digital Equity Center on April 29th from 10:30 to 12:30. And you can find all the library programming on the calendar events on our website. Second order of business, public hearings. We have none. Third order of business will be public comments. Limit will be 3 minutes. Members of the public may speak to the council or request opportunity to speak on a specific item that's on the agenda, or may email comments for council to info@fairfield-me.gov by 4 p.m. day of the meeting. Submitted content may also be read aloud at this time. Before we get into public comment, I just want to remind everybody how important we value public input and public comment. It helps us make the decisions that we need to make. I do want to remind you that you can email, and if you have specific questions that you know you're going to address before you get here, please forward those so we can get you the proper information. I don't want another I got you moment, or if that's what you're looking for. This is not the time for that type of public comment. So again, we value public input. It's very, very important so we can make proper and adequate decisions, but it's not that type of platform. So at this time, anybody that would like to make public comment or reserve time for a later item on our agenda to be discussed, now would be the time to say so.
How you doing? My name's Kevin. I'm representing Central Maine ATV Club. I just wanted to put out a plug for the club. Our first meeting is May 1st. This year we've done a lot of work in the off season for this upcoming season. Primarily, our number one goal for the club is to get trails into Fairfield this year. Hopefully we can work with landowners to do that. We also, second on our list is a clubhouse. I've already worked with the town a little bit, got a list of properties that we could do with that. And also been in talks with the Snowmobile Club about potentially merging into a Four Seasons club for the town. Along that would come equipment that we can maintain our trails if we find a place for the clubhouse, so to speak. Other things that we're going to be talking about at our meetings in May or until August is our Glow Ride. It was a huge hit last year. We expect it again to double. We're planning for 1,000 people. With that being said, we realize that we probably have more money to give to charity, so the board met. We're going to split with the SOS program with the Grange and also the Fairfield Food Pantry. And we had also talked about, depending on what happens with the Fairfield Heydays, that maybe doing, I think that's a week before a Glow Ride, maybe doing something or working with you guys on maybe doing a ride or through a parade, if whatever we're going to do. So we're available to that for that when it comes up. But we'll be discussing that with all of our, excuse me, we'll be discussing that at our meetings, which is held at the Grange Hall first Thursday of every month. And I'll also be available to discuss PFAS.
What time that meeting on May 1st?
We kick off the potluck at 5:30. We have 5:30 potluck at the Grange, which is typically pretty good, and then our meeting starts at 6.
Thanks.
Thank you, Kevin. Max, how are you?
Good. Good evening, everybody. I just want to reserve time for the PFAS discussion.
Yep. Mr. Cezak, how are you?
Good evening, everybody. Robert Cezak, Bunker Avenue, County Commissioner representing Fairfield and Norwalk. We went to the, Jim Curtis, our county administrator, and I went to the Somerset Humane Society's board meeting last month, and I have some color.
Thank you.
Annual reports. For you.
I think you all have in your packet as well.
I did.
Those are black and white, but-
They are black and white.
Yeah.
So I'm giving the color. One instead. And we had a very productive meeting. I don't know if in your pack you got the everything that was there in my little report. Basically, they're got plans ready for a build. They just need to raise some money. The county's helping them out with community benefit funds. We've promised them $250,000 over 5 years. We've just given them the 200,000th this past warrant, so that's coming. Another year, we'll give them another 50,000, and maybe as things percolate up, get them some more. But they have done some changes. They're reorganizing. They still could use some people on their board if anybody wants to volunteer. They have gotten a lawyer. They've gotten an accountant. They're working with an engineering firm for that bill. They are helping. They're going to put the drawings out. They volunteered to do that. So things are proceeding along. They're going to be coming out with their 2024 annual report soon. I don't know if they're looking for some people to help sponsor that with an advertisement or just an outright sponsorship. So give them a call if you're interested in doing that. It would be a big help. And
Do they have a
keep it short,
location for the build?
There it is.
Do they have a location for the build, for the new building?
Well, what they're trying to do is they're trying to access a 5-acre plot that's next to their existing location. And if they can get that, that will help them with a location, and then they can build on that section and then get rid of the old piece. So kind of a two-step shuffle here.
Yeah. Fantastic. Thank you.
Any questions? That was just give you the quick on that, because I know you had the report, and you can read on your leisure.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So,
Excited to see some of the plans, and definitely can be something that we can use going forward. So looking
Yeah.
forward to the capital campaign. I'm sure they'll have that. And we'll
yeah,
like
hopefully.
like the information.
Good. Well, thank you. And I was going to reserve some time for Article 8, those discussions.
Which section?
8,
8, yeah. Which
The
one?
PFAS and
PFAS.
the discussion on the public building.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Hi,
How are you?
I gotta say my name right, Sabrina Williamson. With the Victor Grange, we have on Tuesday from 6 o'clock, it's a cooking class. We're teaching mini cheesecakes. And that starts at 6. And then our public suppers are now back open, and they're every last Saturday of the month. So that's the public suppers are what, 12, Peter? Is it 12 per person?
12 per person, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
About the senior circle?
What's that?
About the senior circle?
Oh, and senior circles are every third Friday.
You-
Yep. No, we're good.
Is that, all that info posted, like Facebook or?
We do. We post it up and we start putting it up on the community pages, and we do have a Victor Grange page. And usually we put it right up there.
If
So,
not,
yeah.
us members will, we get the finger out and post it.
Yeah, we do
Yeah.
share it up quite a bit, but just to let you know that the public supper started again, so, okay?
Love to see that place busy. It's
Oh,
like
yeah.
Cars there all the time, so.
We like being busy.
Cheesecake next Tuesday.
Yeah, you come.
That's me.
Yeah, I might,
I'm teaching it.
All right.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
You don't want my cooking.
Anybody else for public comment?
Off mine.
We have some members in the audience that are part of our PFAS committee, so if you don't mind, when we get to that, that's probably going to be, the bulk of our meeting tonight will be PFAS, and we've got 12 recommendations, so I'd like the council to be able to reach out to our members. I know Dr. Townsend's on that committee, so, but we've got some people done some great work, and we're going to have questions, so, thank you. Okay, fourth order of business, reports from staff committees, town manager report.
All right. So on March 31st, I had a Zoom meeting with a professor from the Root Institute at Northeastern University. He's working on a project focused on bioremediation of PFAS-contaminated soil and water. We were connected through the lab that's located in Norridgewock, the only Maine certified lab that can test for PFAS chemicals. He's going to be using a town of Fairfield-owned property as a sampling location for a project that he is working on, and hopefully a large paper for some bioremediation. So that's kind of exciting. Well, it's good. It's just good. And then also April 1st, I did attend the Economic Community Development meeting, which Councilor Thibodeau will update you on. And then just a couple other updates. The town staff did successfully complete the Department of Labor's SHAPE Award. SHAPE stands for Safety and Health for Public Employees. This is the Department of Labor's highest honor for promoting and consistently improving conditions for the safety and health of our employees. It also provides us some discounts on our insurances, so that is a great program, and they should be commended for all their hard work. And then several informational items were given to you this week in your packet. There's the updates that from the Humane Society that Commissioner Sazak had mentioned. There's the copy of the Morning Sentinel article from April 1st regarding the PFAS Committee's report, which was a great article. You also received Somerset County budget numbers for the 25-26 fiscal year, which the county's budget overall is down $44, so that's a great piece of information. Email from MMA regarding the state's general fund budget for 26-27, and some public initiatives that are in process that could potentially delay Department of Education funding and state revenue sharing until November, depending on how that flushes out. So we're going to continue to monitor that. And then also what just came in today, just this afternoon, WMTW News was reporting the banning of 110 words at the U.S. Department of Agriculture. And this should be watched because some of those words include PFAS, clean water, or safe drinking water. So this is definitely something we'll continue to monitor as we go forward. And then finally, I did receive a call this afternoon from Nate Saunders. we haven't had a chance to connect, but he did leave me a message letting me know that LD 1111 has a public hearing on
I
4/14/25.
was going to brief that by Shelley. She's
Yeah.
going to let me brief that.
So it's an act to provide water service infrastructure to Fairfield residents affected by polyfluoroalkyl and polyfluoroalkyl substances. Basically, it is a bill. It's sponsored by Representative Rudnicki and Senator Searway. It provides one-time funding to the Kennebec Water District to expand water service infrastructure in Fairfield in response to polyfluoroalkyl and, yeah, you get it, and PFAS contaminated in private wells. It's a $10 million bill. I plan to submit testimony on behalf of the municipality, and where you can submit it electronically. The hearing is scheduled, Environmental and Natural Resources Committee. It's at 12 p.m. It's on Monday in Augusta. You can go on their website, you can submit testimony electronically, or you can go in person. Sometimes these things are scheduled for 12, but it may be 2, could be 3. So I'll submit testimony. Basically, what I plan to do is actually email a PDF version of your PFAS report, as well as just the fact that the council, quite some time ago, had done a letter of support to the water district should they get grants. So a summation of between that and just in support of this. So, and that's it for me.
Yep, just, I was probably going to mention it in our PFAS, but that is in room 216.
Okay, good.
It's in the Cross Building. So that, and then again, that's HP 730, LD 1111.
Yep.
If you're looking at, so you can go, your testimony, you can go, if you don't show up, you can go to the mainlegislature.org and submit written testimony.
Good. Yeah. I didn't have a chance to connect with Nate today, but I know he plans on going as well.
Yeah, because I saw it online by Shelley and asked her, she wanted me to announce that.
Yeah.
Hey, Matt, what was the room number again?
216 in the Cross Building.
Yep, I have the link.
Okay, committee reports. Councilor Tiverton, want to start with economic development?
Thank you. We met on April 1st, and we reviewed the following. The Mill Island redevelopment plan brochure is ready to be professionally printed.
Cool.
These brochures will not only be used to keep citizens informed, but also to be used for grant purposes. We reviewed the plans and procedures for the April 15th input session on the downtown. It's going to be here at 6 o'clock in the gym. The survey that was mentioned earlier is highly recommended that you take. It also ties in with our input session, so you'll see some of the same themes coming up when you come to that evening. And the other thing is we need citizens and business people and interested neighbors to attend this hour-long session on April 15th, because it's important for us to have something to strive for our future, for our downtown. So we need people's opinions on this. We also discussed grant possibilities for Mill Island Park. In the past, the town has benefited from 2 land and water conservation grants. One was in the 80s and the other one was in the early 2000s. The first one was for like $10,000. The second one was like for $50,000. This is an option for us to pursue for another land and water conservation grant. And when you take one of these grants out, it's in perpetuity. So it's up to the town to maintain the park based on what the grants were for. So we are currently looking into our responsibilities for both grants to make sure that they were carried out and have been followed over those times. The hard part is Mill Island Park has always been a sporadic endeavor by citizen volunteers. And in the early 2000s, we did have an economic director who also was working towards the development of Mill Island Park. So we're hoping that we'll be able to get some more grants. The way things are looking now with Washington, we don't know. So what we're going to do is start to organize a Friends of Mill Island Park committee. The Economic Committee is going to set up the criteria for that, so there'll be more information coming in the near future on that. We also reviewed and approved facade marketing grant for Kelly and Carrie Bickford, and they own the Red Schoolhouse on the corner of Western Avenue and Main Street, and that was approved for $12,350. So we were very pleased to see interest in that program coming forward. And that's it. We'll meet again first Tuesday in May.
Just mentioned I took the survey, and it doesn't take long.
It doesn't. It's about 10 minutes.
Straightforward, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a big help.
Yeah, so hopefully you can make it to the
Yeah, I'm planning.
April 15th. That would be
And
nice.
that's next Tuesday.
That's next
Be
Tuesday.
here.
Yeah.
Okay. Building Committee, Peter, I don't think anything new to
No, that's on the
report.
8th order of business.
Okay, perfect. And PFAS, we'll push that off too.
Yes, sir.
Budget Committee hasn't met, so. Any other committees? Okay, fifth order of business, consent agenda. These items are considered routine or standard business and therefore will be enacted by one motion. There'll be no separate discussion of these matters unless council member requests prior to consideration of this portion of the agenda, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered next on the agenda. Item 25-35, order that the Fairfield Town Council hereby waives the reading of and accepts the minutes from meeting 2025-06 held on March 26, 2025. Any motion?
Motion.
Have a
We
motion?
usually
No,
put them together.
we
Oh,
have,
put them together, I'm sorry. Item 25-36, order that the Town Council hereby approves the Treasurer's Warrant number 115 in the amount of $504,774.96, which includes but is not limited to MSAD 49 April allocation, motor vehicle fees, Somerset Humane Society, and Stanley Septic and Construction Company.
so move.
Second.
A motion by Councilor Lawrence, second by Councilor Thibodeau. Any questions? All those in favor? Unanimous. Sixth order of business. Old council business, the website. The town clerk met with the website coordinator to discuss the layout of the new website. More info to come. PFA committee report to be discussed under the eighth order of business. Ambulance purchase negotiations, no new info. Fairfield Benton fire agreement, also no new information. Community center grant, the stove was purchased and delivered in March. The hood system has been cleaned. The water bottle filling stations have been installed by Hools, and the electrician is working on the stove installation. Stabilization of the fire department and police department, again to be discussed under the eighth order of business. West Street parking, ordinance amended and approved at the March 12, 2025 council meeting. Administrative fee schedule, data collection is still in progress. Seventh order of business, to take action on the following items. Item 25-37, order that the town council hereby considers and awards bids received for road paving and reclaim, funds to be expended from the Public Works Paving Reserve account. Any discussion?
So move.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Bruce is available for questions. We have a number of bids you should have got in your packet.
I mean, your letter kind of says it all.
Yeah, it was 10 bidders,
10 bidders.
$164,000 difference, highest to lowest.
And yeah, you checked references on Wellman, you felt comfortable on that end. So.
Yep. Is it going to be that easy?
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so no further questions. All those in favor?
We got
Aye.
to amend.
Going to amend it?
Yeah,
I
I
make
need
a
you to
recommend-
amend it, that it be for Wellman in.
I make
in
a
the amount.
recommendation, Wellman Pavement, Inc., our Winthrop, Maine, for the amount of $566,
56.
16175.
So that's $566,161.75.
Right.
Right.
Okay, so we have a motion. To accept the
Second.
bid from Wellman,
And I'll second that.
seconded, $566,161.75. In your letter, Bruce has worked with them before, so
Yep.
do we have any further discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous? Item 25-38, order that the Fairfield Town Council hereby considers and awards bids received for the upfitting of a new police cruiser. Funds to be expended from the Police Equipment Capital Reserve account. I believe you've got 2 bids. One was submitted late, and Chief Gould is here for any questions.
Was these submitted by fax or in person?
Sealed bid,
Sealed bid?
yes.
Okay, so the date and time stamps on top of the envelope, or?
Well, one was submitted by sealed bid. The bid that came in late came in by email.
We didn't have a motion.
No, Michelle, go ahead, please.
Yeah, you didn't have a motion, but if you'd like me to continue, yes. So it is unfortunate that the low bid, which was $118 less and some change, did get received 4 hours late and didn't follow the process. So while the information is here, I would recommend that you not accept the low bid and go with the bid from Yankee Communication, as well as, that would be the chief's recommendation as well.
I concur with that. We've got deadlines for a reason.
Yeah. I'd like to make a motion that the bid for the outfitting of the Dodge Durango be given to Yankee Communications for the amount of $11,212.42.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous?
Thank you, Chief.
Item 25-39, order that the Fairfield Town Council hereby approves the Town Council Manager Report for the annual town report.
So move.
I have a motion and a second. Motion by Councilor Lawrence, second by Councilor Tully.
It looks like we've had a very busy year with a lot still left to talk about, so
Lots of discussion.
lots of discussion to be continued. So,
The other thing that is important to remember too is this is technically for the 23-24 fiscal year, so not the fiscal year you're currently in.
yeah.
Right, so anything that you've done since July really doesn't go into this report. We do make sure that we make mention of the changing of the guard when it comes to the council at the top of the meeting, at the top of the letter, but the rest of it is for work you did prior to July of '24.
Any questions on the letter for the town?
I trust Stephanie if she's gone through with her red pen.
Yes, I didn't see anything.
Good, all right.
Which I was truthfully surprised. I got nothing.
Nothing.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. Item 25-40 is going to be removed. This is not supposed to be on this meeting. That'll be addressed at our April 23rd meeting. Eighth order of business, council workshop and other business. And the first one will be discuss the PFA committee report. I believe you all got in your packet. It's been condensed down for us.
Yeah.
The 4 missions and 12 different recommendations. It was a very lengthy report. Fantastic job by our committee.
It's very impressive, that report. And one of the things that attracted me about it was the fact that it was so conclusive and the thought that had gone into it. And all of the recommendations that the committee came up with, it's being proactive, in my opinion. And I want to just commend you all for doing such a diligent job on getting this out. And it's providing a backbone for our future needs. And Thank you again.
Thank you, Stephanie. I'll take off my council hat, put on my committee hat.
Yeah.
But you're definitely correct. The committee worked very hard, and we had lots of disagreements and lots of good questions. And I think as a result, we try to be as proactive as possible and taking in all considerations. And this is a very fluid situation, so we don't know what tomorrow will bring. Just like we were talking about with the plan from the Rue Institute to look at some of the remediation. So there's always things going on.
So what I'd like to do is read each mission, because it's pretty detailed, and when we have our committee members here, if we have any questions further, we can direct to them as well. But I think it's good for the public that's not here in session to be able to see what we're reading and know what we're talking about, because I think that committee that did a fantastic job. There's still people at home wanting to know what our next direction is, and they'd like some answers. And it's going to be a continuing, ongoing. Thank God we've got people trying to reach out and find some funding for us so that it's not put on the taxpayers at the same time.
And is this on the website yet?
It is.
It is. Okay.
It's still where council packet is, meeting packet information is. It'll get moved to the PFAS section once you guys were done with it, but it's still right with your meeting packet.
Okay.
So mission number 1 is to assess the continuing need for additional water and soil testing to provide a network of testing sites. So I think with what Michelle reported earlier, as well as a prior meeting where we discussed we didn't know who was going to continue to do the testing, I think that has finally come out that they are doing new testing. But the recommendations for the council, we have 4 recommendations under this one mission. It's imperative that the town council urgently engage with state and federal legislation delegation to secure additional funding to ensure that all our residents have access to safe and clean drinking water. Request state and federal legislative delegations to prioritize Fairfield testing due to historical protocols. Conduct a cost analysis of current and future programs and identify future funding sources to develop a long-term plan for clean water availability with expectations that future state legislation-based funding will not meet the needs of residents of Fairfield. And to ensure future water and soil testing is the top priority for our residents to include new construction, residential, and commercial areas as required. So I think that bill that our representatives, Sarah and Rudnicki, have submitted is the first step. Even if it doesn't go through, or maybe it's not necessarily the right bill, it keeps it on the forefront. I think it was requested at $10 million to help the water district get that proper source to the people affected. So that definitely keeps that mission on the forefront. But we continue going to need to know what's in our water and what's in our soil, and that's going to change as time goes on. Something that's clean today may not be tomorrow, and vice versa.
And I think that that proposal would look a lot at mission number 3 as well. That's the primary of looking at water sources. Well, this one maybe look more at testing, how we know that there are locations that are near other wells that may have been just below the standard, and then there has been no follow-up testing. And so has it changed? I think that's an important part to know the dynamic nature of this, that we're all having changed. We need to have continued testing and future testing. And that's going to require state and federal funds to do it, because again, looking at folks who live next to wells and then spending several $100s or more, I understand there's an investment and maybe it's important for your health, but bearing that cost shouldn't be necessarily falling on taxpayers in Fairfield.
And what the other thing is, it needs to be, like you said, at the forefront. It's evolving.
Right.
But we have to stay on it, because otherwise, if we don't, it's going to be swept aside. So I agree.
We have to be diligent on this.
Yes, definitely.
All the time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which will speak to mission number 4, so that's good.
So we good, are we in agreement on mission one? I mean, these have been condensed really well for us.
Right. I think overall, that whole first section, that is something that would happen between the town manager and the town council. Once a committee is formed, the committee would also have input on that as well. It's everybody's due diligence. It's not just the town manager, it's not just the town council, but it's all of us in this together.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So again, that first mission that we're talking about is the need for conditional testing for water and soil. Mission number 2, to investigate possible sustainable uses for contaminated property and establish a portfolio of possible alternatives for citizens' assistance. Recommendations for the town council. The town should closely monitor property values for properties impacted by PFA contamination, land and water, as PFAS contamination of land and water may significantly decrease future property values. It is essential for the town to actively work these changes. The town will monitor property transfer stations to determine if market values are being affected by PFAS. Should PFAS contamination result in lower property values, property taxes should be adjusted accordingly to reflect the diminished value of affected properties, ensuring fair and equitable treatment for residents. The town council should create a new committee dedicated to land development of environmentally affected properties. The council should establish a specialized committee to oversee the identification of potential sustainable uses for land contaminated by PFAS chemicals. This new committee would be instrumental in developing a clear and actionable roadmap for these properties' future while prioritizing safety and long-term environmental stewardship. The new committee would work based off of state findings and recommendations moving forward. And also under Mission 2, investigate other PFAS-impacted locations across the United States for lessons learned. Research should be conducted into other areas across the country where new development is occurring on PFAS-contaminated sites. By learning from these examples, we can make informed decisions about how to safely and sustainably move forward. This said, Fairfield needs to work independently to ensure that citizens of Fairfield are able to tap into any and all state and federal programs targeting environmentally polluted lands and waters. So I'd like to start on that first recommendation on Mission 2, our property values. I want to reiterate that right now, we're not seeing a drop in market values for our properties. Our properties are still selling. And also, our city water is below federal, is higher than federal standards, even though it may be below state standards. I believe they have to be in compliant by 2029 but for city water. So it would affect our city, our downtown area, and those that are on public water as well as private. So I don't want to deter the fact that this is ruining our property values only in the rural areas that may be affected. This is our whole town. This is city as well as out of town.
And I think, as we move forward, and this, again, like, it's a dynamic situation. If we are seeing those property value losses, then I think that should be a situation where there is a state funding
Yes.
to make up that difference.
That is a state monitors all this, and
Right. And so I think that, will be something moving forward, just like you look at other loss of tax revenue,
right.
property
Because
tax revenue.
I mentioned that to Shelley a couple years ago, and this year about just like we have a veterans
Right.
things and like that, try to get something down to the legislature to pass on that. So that's a state gun right there.
And I think it is kind of interesting that you talk about city water, which is definitely true, but it also, I don't know if that even comes up when people think about if you're living in Waterville, you're getting the same water. So,
So I was going to bring that up next. My number one concern is Fairfield residents and their availability of clean drinking water. We've been on the forefront because I think we found it first. Well, we were definitely one of the first to be known about it. But this affects everybody, all our neighbors, whether it's Benton, Unity, Norwich Walk, Oakland, Waterville, Winslow, whether they have city water or whether they have a well. So until, Brunswick recently came out and we found out about firefighter foam and different things. So although our focus is going to be Fairfield, that other recommendation to take lessons learned throughout the country, also lessons learned throughout our own state, because it is here and it's everywhere.
Because there's something out the federal government too, because all the federal installations, military installations contaminated. They do have something out there saying how they did it. So this has been ongoing for years.
To remediate it, how they fix it?
Yep.
Okay.
I would like to address number 6, which talks about a new committee being formed. I think there needs to be a new committee that deals with PFAS. And based on the recommendations that are within the document, certain things could be part of the committee's mission. And it wouldn't just be looking into land development, environmental, of environmentally affected properties, but they could also, this committee could also be charged with looking into those other impacted regions.
Spot on.
And if you look at mission number 4, they could also be responsible to contribute to the PFAS toolkit.
You get to be careful with that too, because there's a program out there too. State wants to buy property up, but solar. So you have to be careful, because we're not real estate agents. There is a
No, we're not.
We're
No.
not. So you have to be qualified in that. And also too, there is a program out there that China scope up property for solar.
For solar.
Yeah, because a couple of years ago, I was talking to someone saying, you don't want your property, I'll buy it. He is a Fairfield resident.
To me, that would be like a domino effect, and the council then would have to react to that as to how many solar fields we want.
Because he's talking about 3,000 acres.
So,
And again, if that were to come about, then I think that would be a discussion where we would have to take action and create an ordinance
Land use.
concerning that, for land use.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the other item that was a recommendation that would be good for a committee would be to host, in conjunction with the town council,
Spot on.
a semi-annual public informational meeting. And again, we're on the lookout for information and progress that's being done. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens with this man that's doing the land studies, Michelle. And because I'm sure we'll hear more information about that.
Well, what he needed he needed a piece of property that we knew was contaminated. So he's actually going to be using the piece that we just purchased on the industrial road. It's easy access. We know that it was a field that was licensed for spreading. And then it also will give him access to the ponds that we also know are contaminated and all of those pieces. And then it will be interesting to see what happens with the remediation that they're experimenting with. But he needed to know he had a spot that he was going to have results of
Right.
PFAS contamination ahead of time, so it's.
And he
it's gonna be
did, I'm
interesting.
thinking about all the houses like out on the Howe Road that are really high. Was he interested in those at all?
He needed something that he knew that he had very easy access to. He's aware of the situation that's here in town. I also sent him the PFAS report that we had. Like I said, he works at the lab that's in Norwich Walk as he's an intern up there, but he's also a professor, right? So there's different things that they're working on. But yeah, he just was looking. It'll be interesting to see if he can come up with a process that does help remediate the way it is in soil, because currently there isn't anything.
I just had a question. Did anyone contact Lawrence Higgins? He's the person first forefront, took all this, got all the lawyers in, all the information, wealth of knowledge. I'm just wondering if anyone contacted him. He had all this information already.
For this gentleman that wants to do the research?
All this other.
Oh, for the
like,
recommendations?
all the toolbox kits, everything. He had all that information. He got the
He would
lawyers.
be a very good person to put on, be a part of this committee then.
He just,
Because-
I haven't seen him. So he started the public water safety site,
Yeah.
Facebook site, and put all this information up. He contacted all the lawyers. He contacted Michigan, what they did. So it's been out
So
there.
he's got the
We can't,
knowledge.
why we recreate the wheel, the information's there.
Yeah, I agree.
To some degree. And there's also like Nate Saunders has been heavily involved, and those folks are more than welcome. They're invited to be part of a committee or as part of the discussion. And we talked about the toolkit, so it's one of those things that you work as a town. Now, you want to have that available to, but you don't want to necessarily be a town sanctioned, hey, this is what you should do with your land, because then we're telling them this is safe and effective.
Is that information-
And then you become liable for those issues. So I think you have to be providing information.
Is that information on the website,
so-
on the PFAS not accurate now? Because there's information on the website, instructional information and links
Yeah,
about PFAS.
Everything that is on there is accurate.
Okay, so that's the toolkit right there for the resident.
Well, so there's actually, yes, but we want to have it more concise and more user-friendly.
Right.
So I think that'd be the key point. Because right now, that's even a complaint, is like, where do I find all this stuff? It's there. It's all on that website.
And it's currently listed in chronological order, right? So it even includes every single notification that was given to residents when they were doing water pickup at the fire station, right? So all of that stuff is there. That could be condensed and made available, but not necessarily in the format that it's in. So with the toolkit piece, it's yes, that should be continued to our website. I would envision that would be something that would be available on our website, and with the council certainly endorsing the fact
toolkit,
that it would be easily available to folks. And
Yeah.
and I think you kind of skipped ahead in the mission, but it also was not just information on the website, but we need like a summary fact sheet or question and answer sheet that's hard copy and available to people that you can just hand to them, so that not everybody's on the internet, believe it or not. So we need to provide it in other ways.
This is also a big area where we can look at partnerships with other groups. So one is, and I'm sure they are kind of lightning rod because they're responsible for maybe some of the process. Because you think about farming, but DACF, so the Department of Agriculture, Conservation and Forestry, they have a lot available, and I think they can be one of the partners we want to work with, potentially. And then you look at things like the Central Maine Growth Council as well, if we're looking at how to, develop in face of contamination. So things like that, we'll have to look at those partnerships.
So you can see links on that toolkit site to like the,
Right. And
Those
DACF has
groups.
done a lot on that,
Yeah.
end. They provide a lot of
Yeah.
links.
so in mission 2, recommendation number 5, I think that would be the town manager reporting to us. I think it would be up to us on recommendation number 6 to create that committee, and I would like to see us actually make a motion for that tonight.
So with item 6 for the new committee, we've got a bunch of wonderful people, done a lot of work. Would we want an ongoing committee, or do you want
This
a
would
new
be a
committee?
standing committee. I see it kind of like the Economic Committee.
Yeah.
It's a standing committee in the town, because PFAS is not going to go away, and until it is, I may not even be alive by then, but eventually, maybe it will run its course. And
No,
if that happens, then it could
I
be
think it
disbanded.
probably needs to be part of policy, no different than Budget Committee,
Right.
Economic
But it's an
Development.
ongoing committee that people need to be working on and staying abreast of
Yeah.
everything
So
that's happening.
The feeling of the committee was just that it should be a standing committee.
Yeah.
Along that line. And there was some discussion of whether you wanted to make it more of an environmental committee, because you may run into other issues such as heavy metals, whatever else. And so you could give us some advice. Obviously, our focus would be PFAS.
Yeah.
But I think that's a portion
Right,
of that.
which would be the primary focus.
I'm sorry,
So-
Chad, I should be sitting closer to my microphone, sorry.
So tonight, I'd like to have us make a motion that we will create and organize for this
That would be.
standing committee.
Yep.
And I don't know if you want us to come up with the criteria for it, or turn it over to Matt on that, but,
I'll just jump at that, because I think I would like the opportunity to continue forward, so I'd like the opportunity to put that committee together, if the council so sees.
I make a motion that the...
Hold on.
Oh, wait.
Hold on.
Michelle's,
Michelle?
what you would be best to do
Okay.
is to have, this is my recommendation to you, is that Matt comes up with that language for you, and that what you do is you do an amendment to your council administrative policy, and you add that to it, which is where your Economic Community Development Committee lives, your Budget Committee lives, the Building Committee lives, those sorts of things, and you could do an amendment to that. And in that, the way those are listed is it lists what their goals and responsibilities are for a long-term thing. If Councilor Townsend can do that, as soon as that's done, we bring that back to you as your discussion item. The council makes sure you like those procedures, and then you vote to put it forward for
So we
an
don't need
action item.
a motion to create a committee?
Not tonight,
Okay.
because you don't know what it's all, because then what you're going to do is you'll need a motion to adopt what they're responsible for, and then you'll need a
Right.
motion if you do any corrections. It would be cleaner if you did it so that it comes back to you. The committee specifically would be a discussion item.
All right.
And then you work from there.
If it would-
And you're okay with
If it would
that?
please the committee, if it would please the council, I should say. It looks like May 14th would be our, because next
be
time
the
is
best
our,
one.
yeah. So May 14th would be our best one to have that, and I will definitely have that
May
put together.
14th.
That's the be after the town
Okay.
meeting.
And I think it's important to incorporate the recommendations that are here that relate to it, because the town council can't do it all, but we can oversee pretty well.
That's why it needs to be changed in policy,
Yeah,
so we
yeah.
have those committees to rely on.
Yeah.
We heavily rely on knowledgeable people.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I'm all done with mission number 2, Chair.
All right, no, perfect. And we've got a plan in place to implement that changes, so. Mission 3 will be develop a long-term plan for clean water availability for affected residents in areas of town, as well as conducting a cost analysis of current and future programs. Recommendations to the council were, the town council should direct the town manager to engage with Kennebec Water District General Manager and the town of Fairfield's representatives to the Kennebec Water District Board of Trustees regarding alternatives to the mandated connections. The town should push Kennebec Water District for all available options, knowing mandated connections are not desired by the Fairfield residents. The town council should also seek guidance from an experienced engineering firm on funding sources and available funds to complete Phase 1 of the project proposed in the preliminary engineering report, Public Water Supply Options for PFAS-impacted properties, March 2022 report developed by Dirigo Engineering. If full Phase 1 project funding can be secured and mandatory connection requirement is eliminated by the Kennebec Water District, the town should move forward with the design and construction of the Phase 1 project. The Phase 1 project, as noted in the March 2022 report by Dirigo Engineering, does not require major infrastructure investment and modifications of Kennebec Water District-owned pumping or storage facilities. The Phase 1 project is recommended to be used to gauge the level of actual interest adjacent property owners have for connection to Kennebec Water District water mains prior to committing to Phase 2 and Phase 3 of the previously proposed project. The town council should also direct the town manager to engage with the town of Benton on their desired public water system expansion. The committee believes that both towns advocating for funding will be more compelling to state and federal representatives and agencies.
So again, just what you said earlier, Chairman, so the fact of engaging our neighbors, I think, is important. And I think this was probably the area that we had the most discussion and most disagreement, because this is a heated issue. We go back a few years to the first attempt for town public water expansion. So I think we were very deliberate and very certain in what we talked about, making sure that that we have, the ability to not have mandated connections. We also want to make sure that there are no costs being borne by or minimal costs, hopefully no costs, being borne by Fairfield taxpayers. So those are things that we're really deliberate about. And I think this is an area we're looking at public water supplies, but are there other changes in technology that will be allowing safe drinking water without expansion? And there may be, and so we have to look at that. So I think this is a big area. I do think a first phase, which initially in our engineering plans would be about a $10 million expansion, which is what our representatives, our legislative representatives are looking at. And I'm not sure if this would fit nicely into that phase one.
So I see the town manager doing all three of these recommendations. Have you been talking with the Kennebec Water District at all, Michelle?
I haven't spoken with the general manager recently, just simply because of us not being in the same place at the same time. But I have worked with them before in the past, especially when the report was originally being done. We partner with them, Water District, on have conversations all the time. So that's not a difficult task to do that piece.
So could something like that be done like within the month?
Or at least initiated within the month, yes.
Okay.
If that's something that council so chooses.
It's a start.
I think maybe with that May 14th, when we
May
start
14th.
talking about policy change, that would be a good time to get more information.
And
That gives Michelle plenty of time.
yeah. And as for the recommendation number 9, Dirigo Engineering did a really good job with that.
Yes.
What you're asking for is more of an updated financial?
I'm sure we would have, I
Because
mean, if we
it's,
got to that
no.
point, we would definitely update financial, but I think it's the phase that would require the least amount, the least heavy lifting
Right.
On that end.
Okay.
Now, that phase is probably not going to connect to some of the areas most drastically impacted, so that
it's not.
still needs to be addressed and looked at as well, no?
It won't, and the reason why it doesn't is because you think about the Joy Road and the Howe Road and the upgrades to the infrastructure that had to be done in order to reach those locations. They're high elevation. It required the construction of a holding tank, as well as updated to the pumps, I believe an updated chlorinization station as well. So the Phase 1 project was meant to be more of the easier project to hit the largest number of people without major upgrades to the system. And just as a quick update, I've had conversations with Dirigo recently. They have an intern in-house. They are working on updating the Phase 1 costs because they are really outdated. And that way, those would be available should this be something that council wants to move forward. It's not a large cost, but if any time we have a grant option that comes up, we want to make sure we have those pieces available, so.
So it's advantageous for us for them to continue with that, and then you can report back
I
with
think so, yeah.
the new information.
Yep.
When do you think that will be done?
I don't know, but I can find out.
The important part is the longer we go, the more expensive it's going to be.
Yeah,
So, we have to be diligent and stay on these plans, but I also don't want the people that are highly affected to be left out just because, well, Phase 1's going to take care of the most people, not the most drastic people. So I think when we talk cost analysis, that needs to be part of the piece as well.
Sure.
so actually, you're looking at all 3 phases.
Well, I think so, yes, you
You'd
have
like to see the cost.
I think you should. I mean, I think you should have.
Because you can't see the big picture
Right.
without
Should
it.
have all
Exactly.
3 phases available. And I think this is also an opportunity, and we've had the discussion, Tim, just about, in general, whether it's water or other things, this is an opportunity for public-private partnerships, and I think that could be something that we can take advantage of as well.
So is it our recommendation then that Michelle talk with Dirigo Engineering to do an updated financial report on all the phases?
I would like to see that.
I think that would-
Michelle's got more comment here, so
I
let's
think
see
that
what
would be
Michelle
good.
would like to have.
I can certainly do that. I just wanted to point out, and that it's important to remember, as the chairman mentioned at the beginning of all of this, is that the Kennebec Water District's numbers are less than what's going to be the new MCL, which is 4 parts per trillion. And any type of public funding that comes out is definitely going to be for public drinking water systems, and the water district is going to be required to update their filtration system to ensure that they meet the MCLs that are out there. That will have to happen first. And then once they know that those pieces are in place, then they will be able to look at expanding infrastructure. And I just think everybody needs to keep that in mind, is that they have to update their filtration system to ensure that they're in compliance. So
They got to
that
get
was it.
compliant before they.
They do. They really do.
We have Max Kenny, who's on the PFA committee. Max Standing, I'd love to hear your input.
Yeah, the committee felt as a whole that tackling the first phase was going to be the most palatable, most likely to Kennebec Water District, in an effort to eliminate that mandatory connection requirement that we heard from our citizens was not favorable. And then we really do feel that the town should partner with a knowledgeable engineering firm around this, somebody who is going to be working for us every day to find funding sources. The town is not experts in finding drinking water funding sources. To ask the Kennebec Water District to go and find the money for the town, the committee didn't feel like was the right answer. We felt like working with an engineering firm was the correct way to go about this.
Okay.
That's interesting. Yep.
Thanks for the clarification, Max.
Okay.
So
Cool with
the
that,
same
right?
thing would happen for the number 10.
Yep.
And again, I think we need to get that updated finance first and then move on to the other parts.
But that's a great recommendation. The more partnerships we have,
Yep.
the more availability for funding may be there, so.
Did the committee know of any engineering firms that are dealing with this, that could help with the grants and all? Did that come about?
So our first one was talking, because the most experience was Dirigo.
Right.
And being in our backyard.
Right.
But I'm sure there are a plethora of others now, unfortunately, so, but we'll obviously look at those. But Dirigo was our first choice because of their hard work that they've
Right,
already
and-
put
and
into the
they're-
system.
They're part of Fairfield.
Right.
Okay, so are we good on mission 3? We're going to direct Michelle on 8 and 9, and we will hold off on 10?
I think 10 is, number 10,
Yeah. We need the
we need
numbers
to have,
first.
I think we need to have our figures first
Yeah.
before we go talk with somebody else.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Once we have that.
We need to invite Stockman from Benton to the table too on this.
Yeah,
Right.
okay, so we're going to move on to mission 4. An educational campaign around challenges to individuals in the town of Fairfield as a whole, i.e., for example, health concerns and property values. Have a one-stop portal for information and make the information available in various formats, including electronic and print. Recommendations to the council is to create a PFAS toolkit, which you guys have already talked about, for Fairfield residents and business owners. This should include links of resources, local, state, and federal agencies, and regulations so that residents may seek information, some of which may be specific to Fairfield residents. Largely, this is intended to help residents via a town PFA's information source. Primarily, this could be an online resource complete with links and frequently asked questions, but secondarily, that a physical packet be made available to new residents to help them learn about the properties and wells. Also, to host a semi-annual public information meeting and invite local, state, and federal agencies to discuss updates on current practices and future technology. While this is a specific understanding for our PFA's water remediation, mostly by the state, this meeting will also be for the purpose of more general PFA's understanding of technologies, PFA's destruction, cleanup, and filtration, as well as the evolving legislation behind PFAs as it affects communities and individuals. For this purpose, agencies such as EPA, DACF, DEP, and CDC may be invited to be present and discuss. It may be within the interest to invite a representative of the Maine PFAS Fund Advisory Committee going forward.
I was concerned, does that community need a funding? Because this might cost some money to get these people here, so, especially over if they're out of state, so I'm just concerned about funding.
So it shouldn't be. I understand that concern. But all of our representatives typically dealing with EPA, DACF, DEP, CDC, they are working for us.
They're state and federal
They're
agencies.
state and federal, so they are working for us. So that's, and if it's a private company that we bring forward, we may have that cost, but I'm going to guess that if it's a private company, they will have an angle, and so they will be happy to present their information because they will hopefully be gaining an opportunity. So, point taken, and definitely something we want to be aware of. Otherwise, this committee should not have any cost, just like any other committee that we have standing. I think this is kind of the no-brainer of the mission. Needs to be a continual process. So.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, after May 14th, I think we need to have, at least biannually, take a look at these recommendations and review them and decide how we're going, how everything is going. It's going to be a new committee. It's a new situation, so the council has to be informed and know what's happening. So at least biannually review them. Progress, no progress, who's doing it, et cetera.
Agreed.
I like the semi-annual idea just because of all the pieces that are in motion right now. Again, it keeps it on the forefront, so we're not forgetting it, or maybe we get that right contact, or something has developed,
Yeah.
rather than a, I mean, if we're not getting information, change to biannually, but I think to start where we're so fresh,
Yeah,
to
you
do
need to
this.
keep your tabs on it.
Yeah.
so,
I think that's the way the committee felt, and I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Are we all in agreement on that? Yeah.
Aye.
Chair, you're the boss. I'm not sure if anybody else wanted to talk, so I'll let you run the show.
Yeah, so we had a couple people, Robert, I think Robert Cesar, you had reserved some time.
I don't know how I represented things, but feel free to jump.
Kelly, go ahead.
I was going to wait until the council was done with their discussion, so I didn't.
I think we are, yeah. So I'm gonna bring it to our committee, and I think Robert had reserved some time to talk
All
about.
right, first, I'd like to say thanks for at least taking the time and making this a good discussion item. A couple things, I want to go through this list and talk about some things. First, I'm a little let down. I was hoping you guys would come out of this with some priorities. It sounds like there's a lot of moving pieces. As a committee member, there was a lot here, but I don't have closure on what the priorities are going to be moving forward. Over to you guys, maybe a future agenda item or something. We talked about a lot of stuff, but we're not priorities. I know at the first meeting of the year, some of you talked about we have so many open things with no priorities. Let's prioritize what we're working on so that we can continue to track it. Next thing I want to talk to is, I heard a couple of you talking about this person knows the information on this, our representatives do that. I'm just going to throw out there, all of our meetings were open to the public. Nobody showed up. We wrote a letter to the town council. The town council forwarded that letter and carbon copied our representatives, including our congressmen and senators at the national level, and we heard nothing. And then to find out that, good on Representative Rudnicki for putting in a bill, but I question if the municipality even knew that that was coming, because it almost contradicts what this committee wants to do. I would recommend, based off of what your priorities are, if that $10 million, before we go, I would love to go and talk Monday about it. I don't want to step on anybody's toes, but does that make the most sense for the money? Do we have a chance to amend it? I don't know. Like you said, it keeps it at the forefront. I just hate to lose a silver bullet for our residents in the House up there in Augusta if it's not something that we feel is the priority. Definitely, I mean, yeah, if we can get $10 million to go to Kennebec, I'm not complaining at all about that, but I think we could look at that a little bit. I sat down, and I know every member of the committee has had different priorities on what we thought should be done. I'm going to give mine. I think first and foremost, the recommendations for the town council, numbers 1, 2, and 3 are priority number 1 for me. And the reason why I say that is because there's key verbiage that we talked about in there. The key verbiage is all of our residents, public and private. When the funding goes away, which could be pretty quick based off of what we learned during our committee meeting, the residents that currently have filtration systems in their home, we're going to be left paying for that. That kind of segues a little bit into talking to the state to our delegations and prioritizing that funding. What's going to happen when that funding dries up? It's all fine and dandy. We get $10 million for water expansion. That's going to take, I don't know how long. We talked about it in the committee. It could take 2 to 3 years. What's going to happen to all of our residents that have to pay for these filters themselves in those 2 to 3 years? That's why, for me, that personally is a priority. That goes into the real estate. Or let me back up. So who is going to pay for that? We're left holding the purse strings on that. The residents are, and we talked about the dangerous thing in there is. And I talked to quite a few people about it, it's the mental health aspect of this for our residents. We have people that can barely pay their taxes right now. You take my property, I have one of my recent tests was $36,000. There's no transparency on how much it's costing us. Everybody read the article in the paper that Hannah wrote. There's no transparency on what it's going to cost me. I'm expecting my property on Howe Road to be the high end of that. They say the average is $5,300 to maintain. That means there's somebody lower and there's somebody higher. If I'm higher, is that going to cost me $1,000 a month? Okay, if I say I want out of Fairfield, I pay almost $800 a month right now for property taxes. Now I have to pay $1,000 a month for water filtration system. I'm not going to be able to sell my house, let alone get a tax break. So that's why I think getting the funding to make sure all of our residents are taken care of should be the number 1 priority. Yes, let's work, let's take the $10 million and expand the phase 1. That's down the road. We have people right now that if they say we have to pay for our own filters, they're going to lose their mind. It could be 1 or 2 people, but that's all it takes is 1 or 2 people to say, you know what, I can't afford this, and they're going to start drinking bad water. If they lived at my house with $36,000, that's drastically different inputs into your body with somebody with 24. It's drastic. So, which goes to my number 2 priority, was and we talked about, which is mission number 3, number 8. We talked about, we had heated discussions, literally heated discussions in the committee about public water. And I told the committee, and I will tell everybody that my water with my filtration system in right now, and the water system and the water softener that I had, is probably the best water there is to drink. Would I want to consider going on public water? Probably not. If it was offered to me, I live on a private road. I'm just using myself as an example, but we have other residents in the same situation. Now we're talking easements, right-of-ways to get water up to my house. Okay, make it, if it's mandatory, do I have to go up an easement here nor there? So we talked about what happened in the past with the town, with the referendum vote, and we had great discussions on, did people move to Fairfield because it's a rural area, the mandated? So that's why we specifically put in the language alternatives to mandatory water. Not everybody's going to want it. Phase 1 would be a complete loop. It would open it up. If the water's going by your house, so be it. Do you want to connect? No. As a municipality, we owe it to our residents to make sure in the future we have clean and safe drinking water. If the money, like the town manager said, if we pass on a grant that may be out there, what's going to happen 10 years down the road? These people are going to be left, again, out and dry. Our town, we have to look out for our town. It may be the unpopular thing, but if we can get it paid and you don't have to hook up to it, it's there as an option in the future. That's why that's my number 2. First is all of our residents, make sure that they're paying, the water testing is still paid for, the filtration maintenance is still paid for, and also testing. We talked about it, and we talked about it at one of the last meetings. We have residents that they stopped testing because at the time it wasn't close to the threshold. Well, during the time of our committee, everything had changed. Thresholds changed. We had a lot of moving pieces, which talked about adding a new committee to stay up on this. But we were almost chasing our tails at some time. But we have to make sure that we're staying ahead of that as a town, leaning forward, being proactive and not reactive. So if whatever we can do for our residents in the future and not mandate water, so be it. We talked about the testing, the soil testing and the water testing and all of that stuff. We have residents right now that qualify for water filters, but there's no money there for it. That's a fact. It's there right now. We have 100, I forget the number, 111, whatever's in the report.
Yep.
Residents that qualify for filtration systems per their report, and there's no money there for it. Or they're continuing to work. I call it no money, because if there was money, hire. I mean, it took our town manager writing them a letter to get them to start testing us again after 3 months. So, like you said, Tim, keeping us in the forefront is a good thing, but we can't forget that there's still people out there that rate these filter systems or need to be tested because their next door neighbor is now within that limit. That brings me up to my 3rd priority, is to create a new committee. I think that's a dead horse. I think it's warranted. We did talk about the specific language of not just we brought it up, PFAS is like Councilor Thibodeau said, PFAS is here to stay. It's called forever chemicals for a reason. However, next year or the year later, it could be something else. It could be mercury, it could be lead or whatever. That's why we put the language in there for environmental. Things are going to be fluid. I believe it needs to be a standing committee because it's not going away. It's not going away, and we can always be proactive as a town to make sure that we are doing what's right for our residents. And the 4th thing was to create the PFAS toolkit. Works perfectly with Brittany working on the new website. There should be, and there's ways, again, this committee could do that, but it's a one-stop shop. We talked a lot about what does the town, or what can the town be held accountable for? That's why we have to reference link. We can't tell you to go grow sunflowers on your property, because then we become liable. You guys become liable. However, that new information that changes, they might come out in 2 months and say, Brita filters are the best thing since sliced bread, and everybody use that. Well, that's what the PFAS toolkit, and we talked about the printing. I heard Councilor Lawrence talk about the funding. There is going to be funding involved if you decide to go with the printing. You have new residents check in. We have our new residents guidebook. When people check into the town, we need to be able to make sure that they know. How many times have I read the local community pages where people are like, oh, what's PFAS? I don't know what this is. Let's put it in the new resident handbook. Have a pamphlet available at the town office to guide them and explain them the basics and get them into the toolkit. That may be something that the committee does and works with the town clerk on making sure that happens. So to me, those were the 4 priorities that I would like to see you guys focus on to get us going, because we still have a lot of work to do. And if I have to pay $1,700, $1,800 a month just to have a mailbox on Howe Road, we have issues.
No problem.
And I'm open for any questions if you have them.
Yeah, Kevin, I'd like just a little bit of clarification. I think we all agree one of the biggest things that we could do almost immediately whether we'll get response from it, we need to keep pushing, is looking at that cost and the transparency, like how much money is still left in the funding, in the funds for testing and filtration. But also, we've been trying to find those costs of, like, how much does your maintenance cost for your property? How much does it cost for somebody else's? So that we know, just like you're saying, like, if we lose that, what is that number? And I think we've been looking for that. I think that's, so you're spot on. I think that's one thing we can do in that first step that'll be easy to do. At least it's easy for us to send a letter and rattle some gauges. Whether we'll get the answer, we shall see. But I think we need to stay on. Is that fair enough to say?
I absolutely.
Okay.
Would you say that's part of that cost analysis? And we need to know what our filters are costing. We need to know what additional testing is going to
Well,
cost.
I would caution that, Tim, because the state contracts out. It may be cheaper for somebody else. We're only going to get those cost numbers based off the contractor that they use. It may be cheaper somewhere else. So that cost analysis it's only going to tell us what they are contracted to do, which is, it's stupid. I've watched these guys do it. In my opinion, they overcharge. It's typical federal spending.
Michelle?
So this is something that I've advocated for the last year. Every time I speak to anyone at DEP, anytime I've spoke to anybody who's on the current sitting PFAS committee at the state. In fact, Jenny Tilton Flood and I have had multiple conversations over this. She's helping through that committee to try to get this through. It's not necessarily that the municipality needs to know. The town does not need to know how much money is spent at Kevin Kitchen's property, but Kevin Kitchen certainly does.
Yeah.
And it's because of that fees. And the reason why I advocate for it all the time is because if the state of Maine does say, by the way, here, you have no idea how much it is going to cost you to maintain it. There are several companies that do testing. I know the recent contracting was done so that it was one entity that specifically does Fairfield and Benton. But it is important for homeowners to know. We don't, as a town, necessarily need to know, but as a homeowner, they need to know. And it is important.
And they're not being told.
They're not being told, and I don't know as if it's I don't get the impression that they're not being told because the state is hiding it. I think they're not being told because they just didn't keep track of the information that way. Right? So if they say they've tested properties, 5 properties on the Ridge Road, I mean, I don't know how their billing system works, but it's a lump sum, it's a contract, and they get paid to do so many known testings here in the community. And if they're not saying specifically that at this house, this is how much it costs, I just don't think they kept track of it that way. And it will require additional work, but there's enough of them that work down there.
I know
a
lot of residents is concerned. I know Kevin is, myself too. Our testing every 3 months, monthly. Is that testing consistent, or is it just fudged?
It's based off of your contamination levels, is how they determine if you're monthly or quarterly.
What concerned myself and my wife, we get it tested too, is the numbers consistent, or they're just saying, okay, you're testing it, leaving the same numbers each month?
I will tell you that I would also caution our residents on the, how can I say it, validity of the test, because I have found errors in mine.
I think that's what Peter's asking.
Yes. There's errors, and I question it, and I have emails that I'd reached out where the numbers just didn't make sense on what they're doing. So I would just say, if you are consistently over, then you're over. That's why I say it doesn't matter if you're at 21 or at 36,000, you're contaminated. So even if the numbers don't change or they change drastically, you're still contaminated. On the funding, when they briefed us, I made specific notes, $5,300 annually. I did the math. It would cost the town of Fairfield, this was back when they met with us, $757,000 just to maintain the filters, not the testing or whatever that is. That's $757,000. That was at the time. That's why it goes back to priority number 1. What's going to happen when this funding? Are we going to have the residents do it? We know the town can't do it. We're already strapped. Who's coming up with this? It'll almost be $1 million by now, a year, just to maintain the polluted wells that we have.
And we know the state I already told you, they're running out of money, right? They're buying property, they're going to get diluted even faster.
It's a different pocket of funds from the testing piece, but still,
Yeah.
it's not unending, so.
That's all I have for now.
Thank you,
Kevin, I totally agree with those 4 priorities. I think that's something that, when we do get to the policy change, that needs to be, in that, with that committee. Again, the reliance, it's an education piece, constantly changing, but that reliance on that committee, because everybody's going to be different. We know we're going to take care of the greater good, but that doesn't take care of everybody, and to me, that's just not fair. You can't leave out one individual.
No, and we are going to do things simultaneously. It's not like, oh, right now we're going to work on legislation. But other things are going to be happening at the same time. So like the town manager will be doing some discussions. We're going to work on setting up the groundwork for a standing committee. The town council is steering all of this to happen. I think what's important to remember is that we are a council representing 6,500 people. And even though our hearts go out to everybody that's affected with PFAS, we have to remember there are some people that are not affected.
Exactly.
So you can't really use taxpayer money for these people. So what does that mean? Due diligence for our legislation.
Right.
And keeping those people accountable for this state of affairs.
We agree.
And I think that once we're on to it, I think, I agree with your priorities too. I wrote, we're in sync. It's just that they are going to be happening
Absolutely.
simultaneously.
Absolutely. Understandable.
Yeah.
And I think one big portion of that is that if we have a standing committee, there should be a, monthly or every meeting report of
A
where our
written
progress
report,
is.
yeah.
How we have contacted our legislators. Here are our responses, no response. So everybody else in the town can send letters.
And that will be.
And calls.
Yeah, right, and that would be
So everybody gets
set up in
involved.
the organization of the committee.
Right, but I think that'd be important, so it's
Yeah.
not forgotten.
Yeah.
There's a regular standing committee report.
Yeah.
Just like economic development.
Yeah.
And we have it in our agenda every meeting,
Yeah.
so I think it's something
Spot on.
that, we're there, we can make sure we mention it every meeting. If we don't
Yeah.
have any information, I mean, we have nothing to report, but that's what we've got old business part of as well. So I think we've got it well covered. It's just, Kevin's right, we've got to find funding and prioritize that first, so.
Totally.
Again, I want to thank that committee.
Thank you.
Unbelievable work, and we got a lot of work to do. Any other questions?
No, just Max is up next.
Robert?
Max, did you want to, Robert, did you have anything to add?
No, Kevin was so articulate, I don't need to add anything.
Okay.
I want to thank Stephanie for saying that you're going to do things simultaneously, because one of my concerns that you wouldn't be parallel tracking everything. And thank you, and thank the committee.
Okay. Discuss potential location of a public safety building and departments included.
Okay.
I do have a question for Michelle, through you.
Go ahead.
Has a report ever been done before for a location study?
No, not that I'm aware of.
I believe there was one done back when Terry York was here.
I haven't seen it, but,
And
okay.
the committee came up with a result saying that it should go to a engineering company.
Do you have the date? or-
No, I don't. It was when she did do, she was here in office.
Because I know she was on my assessment committee.
Yeah.
I don't remember her mentioning that.
She didn't mention that. Also, too, she was never here half the time on the
Right,
committee.
but I don't remember mentioning the fact that one of those was done.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
I mean, if that's been done, we could just use that, right?
So when
We
was
can
that
check
done?
into it.
But you
when was
don't
that
have the
done?
date?
No, I don't have
Well,
the
that's-
date.
So that was all-
Number two, that's 10, almost 20 years ago.
Yeah, at least.
Updating would be wise.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what I did is, I took, do you mind me talking about these, Michelle?
No?
No, all right.
This is
I
our
know.
discussion, please go
It's your
ahead.
discussion.
All right.
Go ahead.
We received this, I thought this was like late last year, before
Yeah.
Tim and Matt came on. And so I took a look at the town-owned properties, and for the point of reference to our audience, town-owned properties include the town farm. There is, and what's in these packets, you'll see the map and the property card on that, on each property. There is land out on Route 201 that is has residences in the middle of it.
No, that's the 201, that is the
the
Antique
business.
Mall
What is-
and Robert Dale. Robert Dale in industrial.
Right there, 35B and
Right.
35C.
That's Robert Dale on one side and the Antique Mall on the other
Antique
side.
Mall on
And
the
it loops
other.
all
Yeah.
the way around them.
Yeah, so that's that one. And then the other one was on Escalon Drive. And you'll see that little gray spot in the middle, and that's a holding pond that was put in there. Opposite this land is the solar field on Escalon Drive.
Also, too, I looked at that, too. You're right, there's a little pond there. Also, too, the little swiggle marks, that's a water line. That's water or stream. Because if you, I can read the topographical map. And also, too, you see that little ridges? That's where that bridge is. It's where the bridge.
Yeah?
So you gotta look, too, the elevation.
Okay.
How high is that property underneath that bridge?
Yeah.
On the other side, and it's the water, and also, too, how much water is under that property?
Okay, all right, so good information there. And then the first one that you had is, you'll notice it's on the corner of Ridge Road and Western
Oh,
Avenue.
and also, too, 30A, that's my property.
30A is your property?
And above that, up there is one of the policemen that lived above me.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm
but
30A, and I
put
can see.
that in here because people often, I've heard people say it'd be a great location for that corner. This land
Mm-hmm.
extends way out in back of United Ag.
In Irvin's and
so I
connected
didn't-
to the turnpike.
But I put it in there because people say, well, what about that Hammond land? And so I put it in there. I don't even know if it's big enough, what we
It's
want to do.
143 acres. It's 143 acres.
That is including that
know.
part that's out back.
You gotta remember
in
too,
back.
on the side of that is, it used to be Hammond tractor,
Right.
that turnaround, used to be all that, tractors used to be there too.
Yeah.
So that's a little cutoff, and then
Yeah.
goes juts out,
So,
so.
we don't have that much to choose from.
What,
The other one that I didn't
That's not-
mention was the Industrial Road one,
Yeah.
and Where
what,
is that one?
I looked at that too, Stephanie.
that Industrial Road is a real busy one.
Yeah. We gotta look too, what property has town water and sewer? The 201 does not.
No, it does not.
Escalon Drive does, so does the industrial park, they have both.
So I think that's the discussion, right? So I think she's talking about those things.
Yeah, I mean, these were the options, and now
Right.
we can talk about
Right.
them, so, but, the elevation stuff and the water stuff, you've got more knowledge about that than I do. I've never walked the land.
Because too, where the bridge is, we had a trunk of tree down there. It's a little elevation up, above, that's a little road up there already. There's a little road up there.
Right,
Apart, before the bridge.
yeah.
So
It's up there a little bit, so.
So, anyways,
I watched at least the replay of last meeting. And so I'm not sure whether the discussion of the current town-owned land near the Public Works Department has, or if that's, obviously not, I don't see that property in here.
Yeah, it's there.
It's in the listing.
it's this one here.
So that one's, but isn't that the purchased?
That's the Industrial Road.
Is that our purchased one?
Doesn't include, the cutout doesn't include your 4-part.
Okay.
In the
That's all right.
black, those 4 are not included, but they're in that map.
Okay, very
Yeah.
good, thank you.
Yeah. So, Is that going to be a deciding factor for us for public water and sewer? Is that something for us to?
I think centrally located,
Yep.
for one.
Filling up pumper trucks.
Absolutely. Water, that's definitely, if we're talking fire, to fill pump the
So
truck.
that narrows it down to 2.
Okay, also too determines too, response time. We used to have a fire department right close by downtown, going to Benton. Now we got, if you go outside that, we got train trusses now and more traffic coming through town if they have to go to Benton. We gotta look at too, Ashland Drive. You can shoot across Ashland Drive to 201, shoot up 201, a lot easy. Same way to heading down to 139, heading into Northbrook Road. So, but also too, you gotta think about the traffic.
The interstate's right there.
The interstate's right there, yeah, and the traffic.
I'm not worried about Escalon Drive if I got interstate right there.
They have to boot up down the exit, but shooting through Ashland Drive, a lot easy access.
So I'm going to open a whole big old can of worms from
You go ahead.
last time. So have we even decided what we want?
No, we have not.
That's a question. So, do we, so that's a big part of this. Like,
I think-
So if we don't know what we want, how do we decide where we want to put it?
That is a good point.
Because I brought this up to Michelle, and we had a meeting Thursday, and we scrunched it down. Instead of the report too, the council decide. I had that report, but the council decide. That we decide another building committee. You want to let the building committee discern the property, have it surveyed, see if it actually can meet the perks and specs, or you want to make a decision.
So, I mean, that's part of our committee's part of responsibility, but in my head, do we want a combined building between police and fire? Do we want a combined building with police, fire, and then the town office next to it? What do we want? I mean, are we looking at 3 buildings, a building that's shared, because you could definitely do police and fire that could share communal, common area space, be more efficient, whatever. But what is that looking like?
We got to think too, are we going to just build one first, get rid of the worst building first, then add on later?
Yeah, you can look at that.
Right.
But that's not a very efficient building if you're going to start building a new building. You want to build it all done and have it done. So if you build 3 separate buildings, fine. That's what you need to look at.
Also too, just think too, on Industrial Drive, we have the fire training center.
Right. Well,
So it'd be a lot easy for access to the fire department.
Industrial is at 0 cost. Whereas
However, we
compared-
would lose the PAL baseball field,
No,
wouldn't we?
I think so, no.
that's called off already.
Well, I
Going
mean-
down backside.
Where
of
are
it.
we?
They can get up around the other side.
Didn't somebody make a suggestion that we go up to Skowhegan and look at their growing pains and their issues and
Well-
stuff like that?
That's the discussion we had.
Because they get a triple building, right? They have-
Right, that's probably what the building committees might be looking at. If it, because Solon has a separate building, fire, town office, something else. What's the most cost effective? And also too, spatial for the property too, we have enough space on each property for all that, so.
Significant renovation of the current fire department, building up.
So-
Significant renovation of the town office, take advantage of the lot on the corner and becomes the new fire department,
Okay.
new police department. You've got space in downtown. I'm just saying,
we can move- we can move police department here.
Instructional.
Sure. So I totally love the idea of sticking something on industrial. But if we haven't really decided what we want,
I don't think we can afford something that is going to be very large. I'm really concerned about having to go for a bond for a building with it. If you read today's paper, bonds could be taxable for the municipalities. We had started this process doing RFPs for companies to come in to see what could be done to the fire station. And once we started with the building committee, the RFPs went right out the window. What we know for sure is we need a new police station. That's the definite thing. Now we have to decide what's our best bang for our buck. because we can't keep putting money out there because people cannot afford it. You'll see coming up,
I agree completely. We can't afford it, but we need to be proactive.
Yeah.
Because the minute one collapses or falls in, and you don't plan on it, or you
but
don't
we
have
don't even know
Well, that's
the
what this is-
state of affairs for the
That's what the
fire
discussion
station.
about. So we talk about Skowhegan and their growing pains and what they're doing. We have Oakland right next door. They just started a fire department. They've got a brand-new municipal building, fire department, police department. I'd like to get a cost and see what it's going to cost to build something that we need. Because we know we have old buildings. It's not a matter of if, it's when. You know, is it 5 years? Is it 10 years? They're already old. They're already dilapidated. You're not going to remodel these buildings. They're long past their useful life. They are.
And I think here's the thing, right? So Oakland has kind of a campus.
They do.
And there's several buildings, each one has
Yeah.
their building, but they're all in the same spot. And, or you look at again, a multi-use building like Skowhegan, so.
Because we got, whereas we have to go visit each location to see if it's feasible, 3 buildings in the campus.
I mean, the
Is it-
footprint is okay.
Your footprint, but is it okay with employees having another entity right behind them? Is it cost effective, having a town office with police and fire? Or
I don't know.
Oakland has one, Oakland and Winslow has one. So,
So we're right back to where we've been talking about. So the decision, but I would like to say, okay, this is our land. We've narrowed it down to 2.
Yeah.
Which are.
And I'm not sure where we're talking on Industrial Road still.
right in front of Public Works.
Right in front of Public
Do
Works?
you remember where the old building was?
The old pad right there on the side.
The old Public Works
Oh,
building?
right,
there.
but that's right near that baseball field.
Softball.
Softball, whatever it is.
Well, yeah,
And
it's a
then,
ways. Yeah.
so we're looking here, and we're at this section down near the road, correct?
Yes.
Or the corner of West
Because that's the
Ave.
bog in that
Well, yeah,
area.
up-
Right.
Come
Yeah.
up this way a little bit.
Or we can split.
So if you're talking about egress, is that going to be the best possible location?
Or you can have
On Industrial
Or you can
Road.
have the fire department on the other side of the buildings, close to the training center, so they don't go too far. Because there's space in between where the building is for the Public Works, like I think where they keep their loader. And
And Escalon Drive is not,
2 split.
it's
We have to-
because of that elevation and water
We
thing,
have to
right?
just check it out. The perk also too, it says there, they don't know one side if it's contaminated or not with, because since the old dump was there. It says right now,
Can we let Michelle weigh in?
yeah, I see ya.
If
I
there's
see ya.
public water there.
Public way.
So for egress, what you'd have to keep in mind is regardless whether you did Industrial Road or Escalon Drive, or anywhere really, it would require the installation of lighting so that you could stop traffic in order to allow fire to be able to get off the campus at any point in time. And you would have control of those lights, right? So like,
Yeah.
they would have the ability to
That's
turn
what
them red so they
traffic
can get through them.
management is.
Yeah.
Just like Waterville
It-
downtown.
Yeah, it would be in either location, so that's what would
Either
happen in either
location.
one.
Yeah, through the chair, I just gonna ask, if we did it on Weston Avenue, would we have to have a turnout lane too?
It's a good question.
So, I mean, that's.
We don't currently have a turning lane because of the traffic that's over there.
Where's this at? The original-
Industrial, right in front of Dow's, because you got gas pumps, within 30 feet of the road. There's gonna be a turnout someplace, I'm sure, if you're gonna have big trucks going. in there
I don't
like
believe
that.
any of the traffic studies have required one for the installation of BDS tire or
But if we had like a fire
Gregory's,
department.
so-
Or have a.
Yeah.
We already have Public Works, you're already talking big
Good
trucks.
questions. Don't know.
No, emergency vehicles, they gotta
Traffic
stop.
Studies got to be done.
I don't know.
Any new building.
Yeah.
Has to be done.
Hard telling.
So we've narrowed it down to 2 places. Do we need to do a walkabout on Escalon Drive? You guys know more than I do. So does a walkabout have to happen?
I don't think
I
that's
don't
the
think
correct
so.
location.
You know,
What,
On-
Asplund
Do you
Drive?
think-
Masculine?
Yeah.
No, I don't need it.
No?
I don't believe.
I like the idea of it being able to go 201 to everywhere else, but,
It wouldn't take much to shoot through if you're coming from industrial, go that way.
so,
It used to be
the
that
best
light.
place then is the industrial road. Do we all agree?
Well, what
with
about
that?
Weston Ave Ridge Road? What's wrong with that parcel?
That's a great site, except.
You
for the
have
costs.
residents, committee together to propose that.
We don't
like they
actually
have one
own
in the
that
school
site
there.
We
either.
don't, right.
Yeah, we looked at that for the
Right.
school.
You know why I told you, if it happens,
It's
you
a-
you lose one resident. Number two, I live up that road. The traffic's horrendous already coming off Ridge Road. Matt Bard lives above me. Another policeman lives above him.
That traffic's no worse than on Western.
Oh, gosh, no.
So-
Western Avenue.
Yeah, but
Center
you
Road
You
is
have
bad.
blinking lights right now, but
Yeah.
when the
Yeah.
traffic, when the trucks coming back from Urbans, heading down that road, takes me 10, 20 minutes to just get off.
All right, so let's go back to Industrial Road. We've got space at Industrial Road for whatever we want. What can we afford?
So isn't that the building committee's
That
role?
would be-
Like, give me an option of a multi-use building, give me an option of a campus with several buildings, and it could be a phased building plan, because you could build whatever you want to build first, that you think is the biggest need, and you could build those buildings serially over the next 10 years. But that gives you options if you have single buildings. But let's see what that cost is and see what we can do.
And the
That's what
building committee would be
should-
doing that.
They should.
If we've got the land already picked out, then the building committee can go and do the,
Figures, assessment, how much will it cost?
and on the other side of that coin, how much would it cost to repair the fire station?
I think you still have to look at that, right?
Because why throw the baby out with the dishwater? We're going to have to sell it. So who's going to buy something that's broken?
I don't think anyone's going to buy that.
You don't think so?
That'd be a great space for a restaurant called
Yeah, they,
But who wants to be there and without those
downtown.
conditions?
Downtown access to the new downtown, it'll be right in the center. There you go.
Built in 50.
I just wish Mr. Ellis would have sold us
I
that
mean, I
land.
know we're talking about location, and it seems like we have that. For me, it all boils down to cost. And the longer we wait, the more it's going to cost.
Yeah.
So, I want that building committee. We've got it in our policy, I believe, that anything over $50,000, that's what the building committee's for, is definitely going to be over $50,000. So we're beating a dead horse here. Let's get this building committee started.
Yep.
Even if the location changes at some point after we know what our need is, but to be able to start moving forward before something happens, you're going to be reactive. We keep beating this to death and not be proactive. We need a cost. And we've got a couple local communities that are already ahead of us. One of them, we're told, is what not to do. The other one's got beautiful facility. I drive by it all the time. I just want to know a cost, and then how do we afford to do it?
So then,
You're going to talk about bonding in just a minute. So again, that plan has to be in place.
yeah, I have no problem with that, but I also want to know what's going to happen. I'd still like to know what's going to happen with that fire station, because is it that bad that we have to not use it for anything? And can we repair it? Can we raise that floor up so it's more level? We don't know, because the RFPs were thrown out. And
Michelle, have you had anything on that? Any future use if,
Does it become the police department?
yeah,
does it become the police
The
department?
council's hasn't done anything with it. So the RFP process has gone from, one, it was hire a firm to come in and assist the municipality over the course of a year with public input to design a facility, and what did that facility look like? Then it became, do we do an RFP to fix the fire station? Then it became, well, then let's do a building committee, let's have that conversation. So the target keeps changing, because the council has not made a decision on what it is that you want to
so
do.
we put in the building committee and just get it started?
That's what we're waiting for Dr. T to get back to decide. So, I mean, yeah, we already had the ball rolling. We got off sidetracked here, and we need that building committee. Again, our policy says anything over 50 grand goes to building committee.
Do we need to give some guidance of what we want them to explore? Like, cost of reconstruction of fire department, cost of a several building campus, cost of a multi-department building. I mean, those kind of, I think those are,
I'd like to have multiple recommendations and multiple options, but again, it's imperative we get this done now. We have to be proactive, because when that falls apart, which could be tomorrow, we're going to be reactive.
But remember, they've got a place in here,
I understand, we have an emergency
an
plan.
emergency place, so.
Yeah. Michelle?
Just as a quick update, you have had some applications that have been submitted for that committee. I do believe there are still some available spots on that committee, but we have started receiving some more applications after your last meeting where you were a little bit more lax on the requirements, so.
How much time is going to be needed for this building committee to come up with recommendations or prices?
I think that was
What is
already in the
the
formation.
reasonable?
Say 6 months.
Yeah, I would say 6 months. I'd
6
love to see
months?
something by fall,
By fall?
late fall. And then when the recommendations come in, obviously, an engineering firm to go in and give us the right recommendation and cost. All going to boil down to cost.
It does, yeah.
So
It always does.
are we in agreement that we're back to building committee?
Yes, definitely.
And we're going to focus on Industrial Road.
Yes.
I would,
Are we all in,
I would agree on that, because there's no cost to purchase purchase land.
yeah, we own the
And
land.
it's a good location.
Yeah.
So we can still get, and because we have to think about serving Benton still.
Yes.
So we can't move too far, not
Right.
be able to serve Benton, so I think it's important. Especially if we want Benton to continue to be a partner.
Is this progress?
Yeah, I think so.
Wait a minute. What if there's a train? They can go all the way down High Street, make that loop around? Is that what they're gonna do?
They're going, I don't know. What do they do now? They got to go to the center and there's a train.
And there's a train.
Well, they can go up 201 because the train can't go both ways. It splits on Newhall or it
Well,
goes
what if
around.
it's 2 miles long?
If they could move a little fast enough against the holes and scoot
That's
down
usually what
off it.
happens, so, yeah.
Robert did reserve some time on this article as well, so Mr. Sazak, the floor is yours.
I had also submitted an application to be on the building committee. I was on the prior building committee. I think that if we're going to continue with the building committee, the first thing that we'd like to do is look at location. It's two things at the same time. Look at locations and also look at the style of building that we would want. There are lots of buildings out there, so we can get those plans. We don't need to reinvent the wheel or go too far afield. Those are, I think, quickly discovered and analyzed so that we could bring to you a couple plans,
Absolutely, that's what we want.
be it the Matt Townsend campus or the,
I get naming rights? All right, how much will that cost?
so, yeah, well, it's, you pay for it, but
Newport also did a multi-use building too,
Right.
correct?
Newport's
I've
got
actually
one,
toured that
Orno
site.
has one.
Yeah,
There's a number of them around so that you can get those blueprints.
yeah, Bowman Construction, I think.
Yeah, I
It's
think
all,
Bowman
it's
did
all
do
there.
theirs.
Yeah.
We've toured, the fire chief, former fire chief, police chief, and I have toured to that facility. It's a good facility. the new-
And I was being facetious when I said naming rights, but there are probably entities out there who would like to make a donation
Not wrong.
and help.
I wouldn't be opposed to any of that.
Nope,
Yeah, no.
no, wonderful. I'm glad you spoke that into the universe. That's good.
Uncle Robin's got rich pockets. So.
That's, and as it stays there, that's why it's, my wallet weeps when it opens.
Uncle Bobby.
So that's all I had to say about that.
Thank you.
Still, hopefully, that we'll be working on the building committee, and
Yep.
Peter and I will get together on that at some point.
So can we just repost that?
We did repost that, and it was scheduled for you to do appointments at your next meeting.
Okay, perfect.
How
So
many
I
did
think
you
we
get?
just stay
You
on
got me.
course.
We have
And you said
five.
you
I think we have
We
five.
have six, including people
Five
being
so
on there.
far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so
Yeah.
you're good.
How many are you looking for?
You made it.
7?
I think we were looking for 7, but the
Have it.
council administrative policy, I think, only calls for 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were 5 last time, so.
Yep.
5 including the chair, including like you, or?
Yeah.
I think we're looking for 7, but policy states a minimum of 5.
Yep.
We're good, we'll proceed with that, then we'll talk about that next meeting. Okay, other council business, we'll start with Council Tibbler.
I have 2 things. I met with the county budget committee, and we met and passed the budget in one night, which in all the years I've been doing this, it's 4 or 5 years now, doing the county budget. It was a very well put-together, thoughtful budget, and for us, it was a decrease at the end of $5,781 over last year's county assessment. And last year, we paid $1,169,622.49 for our tax commitment to the county. This is a 7.8% amount. In the new budget, with the $5,781 less, it's now a 7.76% budget for our taxes. Our taxes are going to be $163,841.23. That was the budget. But then you have this thing called overlay. This year, we have a 1% overlay overall, so that brings up our cost to $11,638.41. And when all is said and done, the whole budget is $44.74 less than last year. And our commitment is going to be $1,175,479.64. I can't tell you how pleased I was to see all of the department heads really tightening their belts and working towards not creating a higher tax bill for our citizens. Fairfield pays the second most after Skowhegan in the county. So they did a nice job, and so did the commissioners in narrowing things down. Did you want to speak to this, Robert?
I just want to remind everybody that the public hearing will be April 28th in the courthouse.
At 6 o'clock, and I was going to say that, too.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and the Budget Committee did a very good job, too, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm extremely pleased to hear those numbers, but I would like to know how much of it is one-time money. So while fantastic job this year, what are we looking at
Next year, we're looking at probably a 3% increase, because we also talked about that, because this is like a gift. So what does this mean for the upcoming years? And
Yeah.
I believe they said for the next 3 years, we're looking at 3% each year, right?
If all things go well, we
If
don't know how
everything
the
goes well.
economy is going to work out this
Yeah, yeah.
next year or two, so we're.
And that
At
3%.
this point, if everything's equal, it'll be 3% each year for at least 3 years. You read the formula that we have and no external shocks.
And that's very respectable. With
No,
3%, you're
I'd
accounting
be thrilled with
for,
that, yeah.
salaries and insurances. But
Benefits, yeah.
There's to me, this is a baseline budget.
Yeah,
It
no, I
basically sticks with inflation.
Yeah.
appreciate the work that was done.
Yeah.
It's good to hear.
I got a high praise to the department heads.
Yes,
They're the ones who bring it forward.
yeah.
They worked hard. But yeah, the public hearing, and then the council, the commissioners are going to do the final on that at their next commissioners meeting. They're not going to have a special commissioners meeting that night, just going to wait till the next,
In May,
yeah.
okay.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
The second thing I have is, if you saw today's paper, the bond issue with taxation on bonds, that is now being discussed. And I think it's, again, our due diligence, just like with the PFAS, to let our congressional people know how we feel about this. So I started reading the paper at 7 o'clock this morning, and the first thing I read was this article, and it just got me all fired up. And so I started writing this letter, and it says, "Dear Senators and Representatives of the state of Maine, we, the Town Council of Fairfield, Maine, strongly encourage you to maintain tax-exempt status on municipal bonds. Currently, we hold 5 bonds for sewer, 1 infrastructure bond, and a fire truck pumper bond. We are in the process of deciding on the possible replacement of the police station and fire station, which are sinking due to poor foundations when they were built, and a new municipal office due to aging and safety issues. Another issue we are dealing with is PFAS contamination of water wells and farmland. What the future holds for remediation may involve a bond to improve our public water infrastructure. As you know, taxing bonds will put a heavier burden on our taxpayers who are already struggling with high taxes and rising costs. We have a population of about 6,500, with approximately 40% of our citizens being aged 50 and older. Further taxation will ultimately affect the quality of life for many in this small town. Thank you for your diligence on this matter. I would like for us as a council to support this initiative and to sign this letter.
This is state, right?
This is, no, federal.
Federal?
Federal.
And the other item that was suggested, and Maine Municipal Association has, had sent out a template for a resolution. And the resolution is much more in detail. And we could sign this as well, and it would take a vote by us, and again, signing at the end. So do you want me to read the resolution, Chair?
We all have a copy of it.
Right.
We need it
so-
read.
And it's basically, it's for the public, so.
Yeah.
Do you want me to read it?
Sure.
Whereas the tax-exempt municipal bond market is a widely used source of capital for states, local governments, tribes, territories, and nonprofit borrowers that finances a tremendous share of nation's public infrastructure. And whereas state and local governments finance about 3/4 of the public infrastructure in the United States and use tax-exempt bonds to do so, with the federal government providing only about 1/4 of the investment. And whereas federal tax exemption for municipal bonds dating back to the 1800s and incorporated into the modern tax code in 1913 has been crucial for state and local governments to affordably finance critical infrastructure projects. And whereas tax-exempt bonds offer borrowers to achieve a multiplier effect of 2.11, meaning that for every dollar, borrowers achieve $2.11 in borrowing cost savings, thereby demonstrating the efficiency and effectiveness of this exemption in facilitating infrastructure investment. And whereas tax-exempt bonds provide for essential infrastructure projects such as roads, bridges, utilities, broadband, water and sewer systems, and hospitals, which are vital to the health and well-being of our community, such that without such bonds, the cost of borrowing would be more expensive, thereby causing an increase in taxes and fees that would place an undue burden on taxpayers. And whereas the Town Council of the Town of Fairfield finds and determines that tax-exempt municipal bonds provide an opportunity for economic development along its path, better facilitate the movement of agriculture products, equipment, and other goods, and increase safety. Now therefore be it resolved by the governing body of the Town of Fairfield, hereby encourages the Maine congressional delegation to assist the Town of Fairfield, Maine, by preserving the tax-exempt status of municipal bonds by supporting and ensuring the protection of the federal tax exemption of municipal bonds. Be it further resolved that copies of this resolution shall be furnished to all members of the Maine congressional delegation. Do I have a motion to accept this resolution?
I'll make a motion to accept this resolution.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Yes, which version do you like?
Well, this
You
is
like
more
your baby?
detailed,
Yeah.
and I have no problem sending both.
I'd send both.
I kind of like your first one because it actually speaks very specifically to Fairfield.
Right, and they need to know what's happening here for us.
Oh.
And this just supports it, the
We got
resolutions.
Michelle's hand
I'm
up.
sorry.
You certainly can send both, but the letter does need to be corrected, and I'm sorry I missed it earlier. We only have 2 sewer bonds.
Oh, we only have 2?
We don't have 5 anymore. We've paid 3 of them off.
Thank you. So we'll correct that.
I think a pump
and then
bond's
sign
paid
it
off,
at
too.
the next meeting.
If we could.
I didn't read
Well, I
my
was
budget.
working on adjusting the version that you sent me earlier today, and if I email it to Chad, he might be able to print it off before you leave here.
Okay.
Is that
So-
pump a bond gone this month as well?
What's that?
The pump a bond, is that?
It's still
paid off?
current. as
That's
of-
still current,
as of
though.
the
It's
date of
not-
the
it-
letter. There
you go.
As of the date of the letter, it's still current.
As the date
As
of the letter. That's why it's.
That's why
you
I
gotta
knew,
do it now.
looked at that one, but that's
Makes it
going.
look better.
I don't think Chad's.
But, yeah, to me, we should do both. That's my opinion.
I agree.
So anyways, thank you. Did we vote?
Not yet. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous.
All right, now I'm done.
Okay.
Thank you.
Council Tully.
All set?
Council Lawrence.
Okay, just don't forget, Tuesday, April 15th, at 6 PM to 8 at the Victor Grange is the mini cheesecake. And Friday the 18th is the senior circle, 11 to 1. On Monday, I attended the planning board meeting just to get familiarized with the proceedings again. Some questions came up. The funding for the planning board, they might have some more things to review. That came up on their funding. I don't know if the funding is mirrored with everything else, or if they have to do a special funding for the planning board. So I didn't know this, they asked that question. So,
The planning board doesn't have its own individual budget, but we do have an economic development and planning capital reserve account.
okay.
So if the planning board needs funds, they have funds available.
Okay.
Typically, any work that the planning board has to do, such as design review by an engineer, all of those different things, the contractor that is actually applying for the
They
permit
might
has
have
to pay
another
for that.
ordinance to go over or something.
Right.
That's
So
why I
ordinance
mentioned-
amendments and those kind of costs. So we had received a $10,000 grant from the state of Maine to institute the LD 2003
Right.
piece that was administered by KV-COG. We had another grant that we'd applied for a couple of years, within the last few months, that we were not successful at obtaining, but we would continue to apply for that next round. So we pay a membership to KV-COG too, so
Okay.
oftentimes they do
That's the
stuff for us
question
at
that you're
no
supposed
additional
to,
cost.
about
but-
funding, because that's something else.
Yeah.
And also too, they had something else going on there. They want to know, does the town have anything on measuring odors? Any
Measuring what?
Odors.
Measuring odors?
Odors?
They're discouraged.
Odors.
What are odors?
No,
Smell.
smell.
Odors.
Yeah.
Okay.
ODORS.
Right.
Odors,
Yeah,
okay.
because that's the biggest question that came up there, because they had to approve something that night, and on their application, they have it on the application form, they just want to know if the town has anything to measure that with, or any special, who reports that.
We don't. Not that I'm aware of. Normally, you go outside and say, "It stinks. What does it smell like?" I mean, we don't have anything.
Okay. I thought I'd just ask that question because I know a few planning board members in the audience, so. Then, that's it for me.
Council Townsend.
So for me, I just wanted clarification, that the survey or the downtown meeting next Tuesday.
It's Tuesday.
It's going to conflict with my cheesecake.
Where's Sabrina? She's gone.
Six.
Maybe you can get a
Sabrina
private
can do a
lesson.
private lesson.
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock.
And it's only about an hour, but I'm sure the cheesecakes will be done by then.
There you go. But I just wanted to reaffirm, I think I'd heard that before, but 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock.
Next week.
Sarah,
So
Doc, have cheesecakes. are fantastic, the music she speaks.
And the only other, go ahead, sorry. Mr.
Well, just to follow up with that public input session, it wouldn't necessarily take your full hour if
No.
you actively worked all tables and interacted and left your comments and then leave, and you would have time to make it for
So you're saying if I was
cheesecake.
efficient?
There's if you're efficient, there's a possibility you
All
can
right.
do both.
All right.
Just do the
Means no
cheesecake here
talking.
during that meeting.
One thing is, let your stomach do thinking.
There you go. And this one is a little more probably philosophical, just sitting back and watching the last meeting. I think, in the town of 6,500, there's a lot of differing opinions. But when you walk in downtown and you walk into a store and you see your neighbors, remember that you're all neighbors. And I think that's the part of a small, close-knit community, that you all still have to support each other and that we are all in it together. And I had a great friend of mine who was on the Olympic rowing team. And you watch that team pulling all in the same direction, all in unison, and they can make great things happen. Now, it doesn't mean we have to all agree about everything, but once we figure out which direction we want to go in and what speed we want to go in, then we all have to put our backs into it and pull together and pull at the same rate and do something good. When we have things going all over the place and people are fighting each other and forgetting that they're neighbors and forgetting that they're in the same boat together, I think that's a big thing that we need to work on. And I think we need to be cognizant of. It's great to have different opinions. I want different opinions. We want to figure out the direction we're going. We want to figure out how fast we're getting there. But once we make those decisions, we got to work together, and then we can make good things happen. And that is the case. And I just want to see that continue to happen. Remember, you are all neighbors in the same town, and you're all working together. So I appreciate everything that Chairman Martin did at the last meeting. There was a lot of work, and I think you pulled things together. So I appreciate that.
Thank you. I don't
all I
have
have to
anything
say.
further to add, so. The next regular scheduled meeting for the Fairfield Town Council will be on Wednesday, April 23rd, 2025. To be held as a hybrid meeting in the city and council chambers and via Zoom at 6:30 PM. At this time, we will recess so the council can recess to sign all documents that require the signature of council members.
Make a motion to recess.
Second. And thank you all.